today I am going to make a new recipe. I've never had it before, but every time I see the picture of this, it drives me crazy. I had to try to make it. So I'm making pressure cooker beef Japanese curry. So it's a pretty lengthy recipe and it has a lot of steps to it. The first step is I'm making a caramelized onion puree. This is 1.5 pounds, maybe a little more. It was 5 large yellow onions. And I used my mandolin to cut them because otherwise I can't even imagine cutting 1.5 pounds of yellow onions. So I'm going to melt 3 tablespoons of butter into my IP that's been on saute. So this should melt really quickly. So I'm going to dump in all of the onions. And to that I'm going to add 1/3 of a teaspoon of baking soda. I'm just eyeballing it. About 1/3 of a teaspoon of baking soda. I'm going to cook these on saute just until a bunch of liquid starts coming out of these onions, because I'm not adding any liquid in when I actually close the lid and pressure cook these. So we need to make sure that there's liquid coming out at the bottom. I'm just going to keep stirring these up. I've been cooking these for about 5 minutes and that's how much liquid has come out. I really didn't think there was going to be enough to put the lid on. I think I'm just going to add a little bit of water because I'm afraid that that's going to burn, and I don't think it's going to come to pressure with just that much liquid. It just doesn't seem like enough to me. So I've got a little less than a half, so it's not a lot of liquid, but I'm going to trust the recipe, and if it doesn't work, we'll improvise after. So I turned off the saute function, make sure my ring, say it's up there, that won't come to pressure. Gotta make sure that ring is down all the way around. The vent on, make sure it's set to sealing. And I am going to put them on manual for 20 minutes. And that's it. All right, so they have cooked for 20 minutes and I'm gonna do a quick release. All right, so tons of liquid came out of the onions, and I'm gonna put my pot on saute, and I'm gonna leave it on saute for about 15 minutes, the recipe says, to cook down all of this liquid and caramelize these onions. All right, so it really did take a long time for all that liquid to cook out. Having a little bit of splattering issues. I've burnt myself a couple times. So I'm gonna say it's been a half an hour on saute. It's starting to turn a nice brown. I'm gonna let it go a little bit longer to thicken up a little more and turn a little bit darker. And then I will have my puree. Pretty amazing that this is all I've got from that huge pot of onions. All right, so my onions are done. This was what I ended up with as the caramelized onion paste. And now I'm gonna brown my roast. And I've been trying to do the recipes exactly as written, and this one says to brown it completely as a whole and then chop it up after you've browned it. So that's what I'm gonna do. I would chop this up and then brown it, but I'm gonna try to do what the recipe says. So I've got the Instant Pot on saute to get hot. And then I'm gonna add the oil. But I'm gonna season this up really good first. Actually, I'm gonna add just a drizzle of oil right onto this, because I noticed when I put my oil in the Instant Pot, it all goes to the edges and it doesn't really go in the middle, and just wanna make sure there's a little bit in there. Flip it over and do the same thing on the other side. Kosher salt and black pepper. That's it. My Instant Pot says hot, so now I'm gonna add a couple of teaspoons of oil, and like I said, it all just kind of goes off to the side, I know. This is about a 2.5 pound roast. It's not gonna fit too well, but I'm gonna do my best. I'm gonna leave it there for 5 minutes without touching it or flipping it. Woo! Look at that color, nice, smells good. Now I'm just gonna let this sit for a few minutes while I cook the garlic. I've got 5 cloves of chopped garlic. I'm gonna, well, I think there's enough oil in there. Throw this in. Hopefully it doesn't burn. Been about a minute, but that's really getting brown. So now I'm going to add in 1/2 cup of chicken broth. And I'm going to really scrub the bottom of the pan now and deglaze it. It's very important. All those brown, hard bits on the bottom, got to scrape them all up. All right, so I just realized I need to go chop up my roast. And with this still in, even though I turned it off, it was still boiling away. It would be really way too hot. So I'm going to take my liner out of the Instant Pot while I chop up the roast. I have to cut my meat into about 1-inch chunks. Really helps. The best tool in my kitchen is a sharp knife. I normally wouldn't do this on a plate, but I need to capture all the juices that are going to come off of this. I've got all my roast chopped up. It's going back in the pot with all its juices. To this, I'm going to add another 1/2 cup of broth and 3 tablespoons of soy sauce. Putting all of the caramelized onion puree in. And I gotta tell you that when I made this, I had to change my clothes afterwards because the smell was so horrendous. I mean, it smelled good in the house, but when I was done chopping all the onions and cooking all the onions, it had embedded itself into my hair and into my clothes, and it was just horrible. But it's gonna taste really good. So you mix this really, really well. Get my lid on, make sure my ring is all the way down. Put the lid on, put my vent on, set it to sealing. Manual for 25 minutes. About 15 minutes of natural pressure release. So the natural pressure is released for 22 minutes. The pin already dropped. And here we go. Smells good. All right, so this is the golden curry sauce mix. They're like bouillon cubes inside. I never had heard of this before until I read this recipe. Went to the grocery store and it was right there in the aisle with the soy sauce. Cheap, it wasn't expensive at all. So the recipe says to add 1 of these at a time. Okay, so I put 1 in. I'm gonna stir that in to melt. All right, so I got 2 squares of the Japanese curry in here, and I'm gonna ladle it into some crocks, put a little cheese on it, and broil it real quick to melt the cheese. Tasted it. It's really good. It tastes almost like a French onion soup, but without the long, stringy bits of onion, and with beef. It's really, really good. Lots of layers of flavor. I can taste the onions, the caramelized onions. It's fantastic. And I'm just gonna serve it with some rice, although I think I might eat mine like a soup, but I did make white rice to go with it. It's fantastic.